please. Woman from New Jersey said, I've never heard that in a union But that was the nature of our protest. When you were going to the Capitol, there were 8,000 people in there. You stepped on somebody's toe, they would apologize to you. And because we're Wisconsin, we apologize. And so I think Walker actually thought that we would just kind of get used to it. We would accept this and we would accept the lie. And you know the truth of the matter is? The truth of the matter is he would have gotten away with it. He would have gotten away with it. Except for a wonderful arc of events, which many of you were a part of. And that was that outside the Capitol, on those first days, the first protests weren't that big. 50, 100 people. First big day, about 1,000. That night, there was about 8,000 people outside the Capitol. 8,000 people. I had to pick my daughter Whitman up to go to the protest. And I said to her, Whitman, we're going to a union protest at the Capitol. She was 7 at the time, so she's very familiar with the vagaries of the trade union movement. And she's been to rallies with me, and she knows, right? We get out there, we stand around, we whine about our circumstance, we say, I wish it was the 1930s, and then we leave. And she's done a few demonstrations. So I told her we're going to go to Noodles afterwards. She figured she'd be set in 15 minutes. But there are 8,000 people out there. I'm going to speak to the crowd. And I'm thinking, where do these people come from? What is going on? And I get up there about to speak to this guy standing next to me, and he's got a sign in Arabic. And I've covered wars in the Middle East. I covered the Persian Gulf War. I've been to Israel and Palestine. So I turned to the guy in Arabic. I said, Assalamu alaikum. And he turned to me and he said, I don't speak Arabic. I said, you can understand my confusion. And he said, oh, that. I went on the internet today, and I used that translation thing. It says, and just remember, this is like 2 days ago. It says, if Egypt could get rid of Hosni Mubarak, Wisconsin can get rid of Scott Long. Because, see, I don't think Walker and a lot of other folks understand that for the month before he announced his plan, his austerity plan, people of Wisconsin had been hunkered down doing 2 things, watching the Super Bowl, and then watching the Super Bowl of international politics, which was Egypt, right? Where all these people gathered in the square, they went day after day, risking their lives to get rid of a dictator who had taken away their trade union rights, among other things. And now, it is said around the Capitol, and Tim Cohen can probably confirm this better than I, that on the day that Walker announced his plan, which happened to be the day after Mubarak stepped down, that Walker looked around the face of the planet, looked to the far reaches of the earth, and said, this place is one dictator short. I think I can fill the void. And our pundits in Washington, they don't get that. The political consultants, they don't get that. But people in Wisconsin got it. They're like, okay, we had to watch Anderson Cooper for a month. And wearing his black t-shirt and the whole thing. And so we got it. If somebody comes to take your rights away, if you are in a situation where your ability to have a voice in the workplace and in the public life of your state or your country is threatened, you go to the square and you assemble and you petition for the redress of grievances, and you don't go for one rally, you go again and again and again, day in, day out. If necessary, you occupy the Capitol so that you stop the theft of your rights. And that's what Wisconsin did. Democratic Party event, so be polite to Democrats. But I want to say that something phenomenal happened. Something unprecedented in American history. The presence of all those people, 8,000, 20,000, 40,000, 50,000 by that first Friday. Jesse Jackson standing there saying this is a king moment, this is a Gandhi moment, naming this as a transformative moment in American history. All this incredible moment caused phenomenal, unprecedented things to occur. Democrats became Democrats. Their job in the context of where our politics is they're the minority party. They lost the election. They're supposed to sit there and be witnesses to the governor doing whatever he wants, to the legislative leadership doing whatever they want. And the Democratic state senators, they're not good with math. They're not. I'm not suggesting code right or anything like that. But after 4 or 5 days of these demonstrations, they looked at the state laws, right? It says that to pass a budget repair bill, you needed 20 members of the state senate. So they quick counted. They said, how many of us are there? Well, there's 14. There's 33 members. Well, that means if all of us leave, then the governor and his people can't pass their law. And then they did what I think, let's speak about ultimate sacrifice. They decided to leave the capital of Wisconsin, get into vans and vehicles, and to drive out of the state and spend the better part of 3 weeks in Illinois. There's a lesson in that. Sometimes the most useful thing that a politician can do is leave. No, because understand what Tim Cullen's job was supposed to be. He was supposed to be a cog in the machine. Wasn't supposed to think, wasn't supposed to do anything of value. He was supposed to sit in that machine and just kind of make it work, right? And the machine was going to take away collective bargaining rights. It was going to take away our permanency of our unions. It was going to undermine the whole infrastructure of the state. That was what that machine was going to do. And so these legislators left. Now, there are allies in the Assembly that stayed and raised the issues. This is a parallel fight, and it's a vital fight. I respect the 14. I also respect the Assembly members who stayed there and fought sometimes 20, 22-hour days and nights against this bill. And because they stayed, because the Assembly members stayed, the Capitol could not be cleared, and it was possible for all those thousands of people to be inside. Of opposition inside, senators outside preventing progress from going forward, what they call progress. A movement did. And that's an incredible thing. A movement came to be. Because there's one thing that's more powerful than an ideology or a party, and that is a movement. That is something where people are committed to it, and they will not give up until they prevail. Russ Feingold, son of this town, has a line. He says when he was a little kid, fighting with his older sister, she was stronger than him. She would beat him up sometimes. And he had a line. He said, this fight isn't over until I win it. And we created a movement that says this fight isn't over until we win it. And that movement could not have come to be had Tim Cullen and people like him not gone to the quicker. And had Ann Jordan and people like him not stayed as far as there. That combination built the space for this movement. And they tried everything they could to destroy this movement. They tried everything they could to destroy it. The biggest lie was that private sector workers would not support public sector workers. The union solidarity did not exist across lines of union membership, of private public. And first thing, the governor tried to separate out police and fire. And I don't know how many of you were outside the Capitol a couple days in. I was actually speaking, I was there when it happened. And we're talking, and there's all these folks, and suddenly from the distance, you heard bagpipes. The crowd parted, and the bagpipes came marching forward to the front of that crowd. And then I'll tell you, many people are going to question this, but I'm not, and I'd be proud to be gay, but I'm not.